Hey, what is going on everyone? It is me, Mr. Mario, and today I have a little story for you all. And I found this the other night, and I swear I've heard this years ago. I know I have, but I really didn't see any concrete evidence of it until, last night, really. I don't know how I stumbled onto it, but I stumbled onto this, then I started looking it up, and sure enough, it was real, and it is really nothing to worry about now, but, because of the audience I have on here, most people on here enjoy modding, they enjoy, the back end of systems that I show and such on here, and what I talk about. I figured you all would really like this story, and I will have a link to this forum down in the description. But first off, you might be thinking, Mario, this is coming from a forum, what are you talking about? Just listen, it is completely plausible, okay? And this has been proven. Now, onto the story itself. The Sega Dreamcast is one of the best systems out there, one of the most open-ended systems in terms of homebrew, but also it really got hit with a bad bout of piracy. In case you do not know, with the Sega Dreamcast, it is one of the only consoles out there where you can download a game and burn it to a disc and do no modifications to the system to get it running. This is a real big downfall for the Dreamcast just because they could not make many sales off of software titles. Because nobody was buying them. Pay $40 for a game or pay $2 for a blank CD. Which are you going to do? Most people, unfortunately, took the pirate route. Anyways, what I'm going to be talking about is the release group Echelon. Echelon was a release group that released many Dreamcast games, and they also worked into the PS2 scene as well, from what I see. And we are talking about the game Sega Smash Pack Volume 1. It is a Smash Pack, which was a pack of about 5 or 6, I believe, Sega Genesis games that were put into a emulator and then released on disc form, which you could play on your Dreamcast. Now, what if I told you that someone internally at Sega had pretty much given these pirate groups free reins of this emulator? Now, it sounds pretty crazy, doesn't it? And it is. It is crazy, but it is awesome at the same time. Let's go ahead and get into this story, because I can't wait anymore. So, on February 3rd, 2001, by the way, I'm getting most of this, from the forum, the Dreamcast Wares release group released a ripped version of the Sega Smash Pack. To the excitement of emulation fans, Echelon seemed to have figured out something very neat about the Smash Pack. The Smash Pack was designed around an emulator for Sega Genesis games. From the release notes. Miscellaneous notes. Yes, this pack is based off an emulator that Sega coded. The emulator requires a lot of tweaking to get games that are not included on this pack to run correctly. If we have time for it, we will probably do this tweaking over the next few days and release a menu system to launch your own ROMs and burn them to a CD. For all those wondering, the Dreamcast console that comes with this pack, when you buy it, does play mill CDs and copies. Regards to Uncle Sonic for his help. You know for what. Now, the last line is a bit confusing. Release groups give shoutouts to other groups and people in the scene all the time, but Uncle Sonic is a weird shoutout to make. Most people ignored it, of course, because they just wanted to burn their game and play. And sure enough, 2 days later, Echelon excited the emulation scene and released something that would create both joy and massive controversy in the Dreamcast emulation and hobbyist programming scene over several years. And what they released here is the Sega Smash Pack ROM loader from Echelon/Sega. This was released, let's see, the first game, the game itself was released on the 3rd of February, this was released 2 days later. Now the release notes say, and I quote, "As we said in our previous release of Sega Smash Pack Volume 1, we were working on a simple menu system for the end user to load his own Sega Genesis ROMs." I find it funny they said his because it's like, hey, obviously girls can't mod. Anyways, well, here it is. This menu system allows you to burn your own Sega Genesis ROMs onto a CD and have a nearly perfect Sega Genesis emulator. Please check out the readme.txt file included in this zip for more information on how to burn this and so on. So pretty much, this is what happened. Alright, now I am going, onto my own thing. I'm not quoting from here anymore. This is what happened. This release was awesome. People loved it. They tipped their hat to Echelon and they said, hey, you know what? It's cool. They figured it out. But years later, this is where this gentleman right here, they are called Dark, D-A-R-C, on DC Emulation, echelon.txt.org, him and another gentleman ended up doing kind of a, how we can say, kind of a way of keeping old Dreamcast games intact. What they are doing is they are ripping original Dreamcast games in their entirety and just doing one-to-one copies, so they're not compressed or anything, but they are also doing CRC and checksums for all of them. And what Dark and another person were doing is they would each rip the same games and then match up the contents and such, make sure they were okay, and throw them into a database. For all you 360 modders out there, this is pretty much what ABGX 360 does. Now, what happened is this guy ended up dumping a copy of Sega Smash Pack, and on there, he looked at the game content files and he found something really weird. There was, get ready for this, in the actual game files itself from the original disc, not a scene release, the original factory press disc, there is a text file called echelon.txt. Now, Echelon, of course we know, is the name of a piracy group. But what happened is he decided to extract it and open it. And inside there, it says this. It is a message from the programmers to Echelon specifically. No one besides Echelon was really supposed to see this, but this is what the text file says. To whomever releases this pack, let me give you a few bits of info. I emulate a US Genesis including territory lockout. SGA files are standard Genesis/Mega Drive.bin files renamed. The emulator is looking for some parameters to be used via Jinsu. I believe that's how you say it. If you don't know what that is, you'll figure it out. And then right there, it shows the different modes and everything of how to use the emulator and what they all mean for every ROM. Finally, at the end, it says, and don't forget to pay your respects to Uncle Sonic. Sony just doesn't get it. And it's signed, Gary. Isn't that awesome? And Uncle Sonic, remember what they said in the very first miscellaneous notes for this game when they released it. They said regards to Uncle Sonic for his help. You know for what. Now, the funny thing is, it is signed Gary. And who is Gary? Well, they decided to check this out. And if you load up Sega Smash Pack and look at the credits in the programmer area, where it says programmer, the main programmer there is Gary Lake. So yes, it was the main programmer for this Smash Pack who put in that text file secretly, pretty much holding Echelon's hand and saying, you know what? We made this emulator, here you guys go. Now, to put this in today's terms now, this is like, let's say, Grand Theft Auto 5 comes out, and somebody rips the disc, and inside of there's a text file, and if you open it, there's something from the programmer that says, this is how to run Homebrew from a disc on an Xbox 360. It is about as outlandish and crazy and awesome as something like that happening. Now, you might be wondering, okay, who the hell is this Gary Lake guy? I bet he lost his job, didn't he? Well, you know what? Yes, he did lose his job because, let's be real, we all know what happened to Sega. They're not around anymore and they sold off, all their IPs and franchises to other companies. But who exactly is Gary Lake, aside from knowing that he is the main programmer at Sega, and is this really him? Well, upon looking him up, according to his LinkedIn profile, swear to God, not trying to stalk here or anything, this guy actually was a technical director at 3DO from 94 to 97 before he worked at Sega. And then at Sega of America, he was a senior software engineer from 97 to 2001. 2001 is when they end up closing their doors. From then on, he actually worked as a technical director at Electronic Arts, a technical director another time at Midway, the director of technology at Capcom, which is what was going on when this article was written, or this forum post, and at the moment, February 2013 to present, from what I see, he is now the vice president of game technology at Warner Brothers Entertainment Group of companies. So yes, he is still, pretty big in the scene, I guess. He still has his job and everything. He's had very, very great jobs as well, which is awesome to see. And he's really been around. We see Sega, Midway, Capcom, Warner Brothers. Hey, the guy knows what he's doing. Now, finally, you might be asking, okay, he's still in the industry, cool, but why would he do something like this? Well, as I said, remember when I said that in 2001, Sega, you know, they end up closing up their doors and closing up shop and everything. This game was released on January 31st, 2001. The same day that Sega came out and announced that they were leaving the console market and they were pretty much shutting up shop. So, according to that, you know, games take at minimum months and months to program, at least a year most of the time, and games go gold, you know, at minimum, I would say 3 weeks. 3 weeks before the game actually retails is when it goes gold. So that means in early January, you know, and maybe even November and December, let's say, Sega was already going around and telling their employees, yeah, you know, we are going to be closing up shop. And if they didn't tell their employees, which they really should have, people inside knew. If you're working in Sega, you knew something was wrong, something was up. You could feel your job was just about to escape you. In short, Gary knew what he was doing, and he pretty much knew it was the end for Sega, and that the Dreamcast was going to come to a standstill, that games are going to stop being produced, and everything like that, because if they're not making consoles, they're not going to make games for it, because companies do not want to do that. So yes, the guy knew what he was doing, and this was his kind of his final send-off to it, saying, you know what? The console's going to be dead soon. The company's going to be dead soon. I might as well do something practical with this final release I'm doing, which, you know what, Gary, I do applaud you for, because this is something that really no other company would do, and I can't think of a console manufacturer, anybody in the industry that has done this since the Dreamcast. It has been over 10 years. It's now 13 years, you know, about, and nothing like this has happened, really. One thing I actually wanted to bring up is, you know, this is kind of reminiscent of something else that happened. When the Xbox 360 came out, there was a demo disc that got out. And the special thing about this demo disc was that they did not put any type of protection on there. Meaning that you could just take the disc and burn it over to a regular single layer, not even a dual layer, a single layer DVD, and run it in a stock system for some time and run all the demos and the videos off of there. They found out that nothing was encrypted, and they were hoping, the scene was really hoping, like the, you know, the piracy scene and the homebrew scene was really hoping for something like this, something like what Gary did to happen to the Xbox 360. Obviously, now that it's 2014, we know that that demo disc was, you know, everything was patched on there, it was buried, it was scrapped, there was nothing they could really do. In case you're interested, really the only thing that people figured out they could do with the demo disc is that they could change out the videos from the videos on the disc to videos of their choosing. Aside from that, it was right when the 360 came out, no one really knew what to do with it, and Microsoft patched that really, really quickly in a dashboard update. So, you know, nothing like that happened, although, you know, I really can't help but see how awesome would the homebrew modding scene have been if that disc went somewhere further. I just don't know. Anyways, I wanted to share this story with you all, and I really enjoyed it. I hope you all enjoyed it as well, but hey, you know what? Gary Lake, this guy did some awesome stuff, and he had more balls than many other people would. But hey, you know what? That's what happens when you know that your company is about to shut up shop and you're going to be losing your job. So, and I'm not saying that in a bad way, because obviously the guy, in my opinion, is much better off without Sega. I mean, as I said, look at the companies he's gone to afterwards, and he's still in the industry. But he's secure. He's good. But you know what? Gotta pay my homage to Uncle Sonic. Anyways, this is Mr. Mario, signing off. Thank you for watching, everyone, and hope you enjoyed this little story time.